Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Report. Happy St. Patrick's Day. It is Monday, March the 17th. I hope everyone's having a fine Monday afternoon. I'm sure some of you are already been dabbling, or if you haven't, I'm sure there are some to come. That's why we are coming live early. There's Zach. Welcome in with a Guinness. And I know I'm headed out shortly after the show completes to indulge in a few Irish car bombs myself. So thank you for tuning in a little bit earlier to allow us to enjoy our St. Patrick's Day on this Monday afternoon. We got a pretty decent 5-game slate tonight. Looks relatively low scoring, to be completely honest, but a lot of times when I say that, things don't always go as planned. So maybe I made this slate a little bit more exciting already. But let's dive into the goalies, and then we're going to do something a little bit different than we normally do on the DFO DFS Report. We'll start with Andrei Vasilevsky, likely to get the start for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He will go head-to-head with Ivan Fedotov for the Philadelphia Flyers. Jonas Korpisalo gets the start for the Boston Bruins. It'll be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen for the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres will be without J.J. Peterka, Josh Norris, and another J. Who is it? Yuri Kulich, of course. 3 J's will not be in the lineup tonight. Actually, I was looking at their lineup. So I'm like, wow, it's bad time to be a guy named with the first letter J in your name in Buffalo. But like literally they have 100 of them. I mean, they still got Jason, they still got Jordan, they still got Jack, they still got Jacob on the blue line. I mean, there's a lot of J's in this lineup. So I think it's just a bad time to be in Buffalo, to be honest with you. Jet Greaves gets a start for the Columbus Blue Jackets. It'll be Jake Allen, a couple more J's for the New Jersey Devils. Joseph Woll, another J for the Toronto Maple Leafs, likely to get the start. It'll be Dustin Wolf for the Calgary Flames. We got Joseph Woll and Dustin Wolf going head-to-head here. I'm sure there's a Justin Wolf out there that just loves this matchup. And Philip Gustafson gets a start for the Minnesota Wild. It'll be Darcy Kemper for the LA Kings. Okay, Zach, we always save our daily face-off, our head-to-head lineup challenge until the end of the show. But these lineups are always kind of mine and your first run through at things of the day. And then by the time the show ends, we are talked ourselves into maybe a few different lines, a few different players. And it's like, okay, this is actually a line that I would have targeted if, we really break this thing down. So I want to start with our head-to-head, and then if we have some time at the end of the show, just talk about okay, is there somebody that something you would have tweaked now, kind of knowing what you know now after breaking down the full slate. So I won the last head-to-head, 38-36. I will go first. I already hate it. I got Casey Middlestat and Vinny Lettieri in there from the Bruins. I obviously wanted to get to Boston 1. They graded out really well. But really cheap for Middlestat, who's on the top power play unit. Lettieri's got a pretty good shot volume. And then Mason Lowry from Boston as well. Then I went with the Cody Glass, Jesper Bratt, mini stack. Jesper Bratt coming off the best week in the league, number 1 star. Actually, I think he was number 2 star. I think Darcy Kemper was number 1 star. But anyways, and then I got Brandon Hagel, Nikita Kucherov from the Lightning. I also have Luke Hughes from the New Jersey Devils. Didn't have a lot of money left over, so I went with Dustin Wolf between the pipes in Toronto. Zach, who do you got?
That's a spicy one, Brock. Yeah, I went LA3. Looks like they're in a really great spot here tonight. So I got the Warren Fogle, Trevor Moore mini stack in there right now. Wanted to get some of that Tampa 1 line in there as well. So we got Cirelli, Hagel, Kucherov. We got a little mini stack of Cody Glass and Simon Nemec, both of them correlating on the second power play unit. A couple of solid games so far for Cody Glass. In New Jersey, got Mason Lowry in there. Looks like a tremendous play today at 5K. And then Darcy Kemper. He seems like he's been on fire lately. So got him in there at $7,800 today.
Number 1 star. So yeah, immediately, not a huge fan of my lineup, but we'll see what we change by the end of the show. Let's get into it. We'll start at the top with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers really struggling right now. The Tampa Bay Lightning playing much better hockey. Minus 290 home favorites here. 3.7 implied total is the highest on the slate. The Flyers 2.2 implied total is the lowest on the slate. In terms of the matchups for this one, we've got really good matchups, obviously, for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Terrible matchups on the other side for the Philadelphia Flyers. So if you didn't know, Tampa won with Kucherov back in the lineup in their last game. They put Hagel, Cirelli, Kucherov together on that top line. We've seen them play together a fair amount this year, not a ton, but I think it's about 200 plus minutes. So it's been a fair run. Gensel Point, Yanni Gourde on that second line. Then you got Bjorkstrand, Gunkalvis, and Nick Paul on that third line. So best matchup overall is the Kucherov line. And when you take a look at the advanced metrics here, or the underlying metrics for that line, they've been simply outstanding this year. Honestly, probably should score more, but their underlying metrics are some of the best in the league. So 40 scoring chances, 17 high danger, 4.0 expected goals for is kind of as good as it gets. They had a massive game. What was that, Saturday? Huge game on Saturday, but it did take 2 empty net goals to kind of get there. But still, a productive game overall. And this looks like a spot in which they can have another huge night tonight. They're going to see a lot of that top line, that Noah Cates, Travis Konechny, Tyson Forrester line. Also going to see about 50% of the ice time against the second and third line. So that Forrester line with Konechny up there, really not that great defensively. They've done a decent job keeping the puck out of their net, but if you're giving up 36 scoring chances against per 60 with Ivan Fedotov between the pipes, you're probably in trouble. Same thing goes with that third line, which is pretty bad defensively as well. Actually, the worst that the Flyers have. So overall, pretty good matchups regardless of when they're going to be on the ice tonight for Tampa Bay 1. I absolutely love them tonight. In terms of the power play, their power play has been kind of middle of the road. Same with the Flyers PK. Flyers also a very disciplined team. So the Lightning not a huge power play advantage tonight, but that 5v5 advantage should be enough to propel Tampa Bay 1 into being an elite play tonight. They grade out second best overall tonight. They are projected to be the second highest owned line on the slate. So a lot of love for Tampa Bay 1, but to me, when you put Kucherov at that top line, like I've always been a fan of playing Hagel and Cirelli, and then when you put Kucherov there, it just makes me like them that much more. Tampa Bay 2, 17,800. They're going to see about 7.4% ownership across the board. Point at 6,900 and Gensel at 75. The problem I have is the fact that the power play matchup is not that great tonight. And I do think that this line could not struggle, but just not be quite as productive as Tampa 1 at 5v5. The metrics are obviously significantly worse. And without that kind of power play boost, I just have a lot more interest in Tampa 1. And I plan on kind of just focusing on Tampa 1 with my Tampa exposure tonight and just being over the field on them because the ownership is pretty modest. What are your plans with the Lightning tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you here, Brock. I got a lot of love for this new look top line for the Lightning here because they won me a shitload of money on Saturday night. So, of course, I'm going to go back to the well here and play them once again. Last week I was talking about Anthony Cirelli being a guy really due for some offense and some goals to come his way. Well, he had a 2-goal performance on Saturday. Finally managed to kind of pop off and turn those expected goals into actual goals. So I really like the look of this line here. Obviously, getting Nikita Kucherov there, alongside Hagel and Cirelli makes, as you mentioned, a line that we already usually like to play just that much more appealing. For me, it's going to be jamming in Tampa 1 tonight. I'm going to have a pretty heavy amount of them, I think, here on this slate because they look like they're in a great spot. Obviously, Ivan Fedotov has not been that great so far this season for the Philadelphia Flyers. So I think this is a nice spot here to attack this top line.
Fedotov, I feel like he's been better as of late, but his baseline was not great. So playing a little bit better is probably not a huge difference. But he's starting to get more starts here. 4 starts in March. He does have a .913 save percentage. Has gone just 1-3 during that stretch. But he's definitely been better as of late. Not kind of like that auto fade he was earlier. But this is an absolutely horrific matchup for him. And Tampa Bay 1 looks like they're in a really good spot. On the flip side, the Flyers not generated a whole lot. We'll take a look at the team trend chart here at 5v5 whatsoever as of late. Just 2.21 expected goals for per 60 for this line. And, not going up against a very easy opponent in the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning's PK has also been extremely good. And the Flyers power play is just absolutely dead. Does not exist, ceases to exist. So I do find it pretty difficult to target the Flyers whenever they've got a bad matchup. Like I still think that, I don't mind mixing Noah Cates and Tyson Forrester and company in when they've got good matchups. But this one, with the way Vasilevsky's played with this matchup tonight at 5v5, it's a really tough spot for them. Also, their underlying metrics are actually quite horrific with Travis Konechny as opposed to Bobby Brink on that line. If I had to play any Tampa, it would probably be through Philadelphia. It would be through Philadelphia too. They've got the much better underlying metrics. Their matchup is slightly better. They're going to see a little bit more of the second line, which is the worst defensive line for the Lightning. So if I had to play Philadelphia, it would be through Philadelphia too. Matvei Mishkov has been playing pretty well as of late. Owen Tippett, 5,700. Sean Gauthier, 42. It would probably be a Tippett Mishkov mini stack, probably Mishkov one-offs more than anything. But I honestly don't envision myself getting to a lot of Philadelphia in this one tonight.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you here. 6% of the field is playing the top line. 5.5% on that second line. That is too much ownership as far as I'm concerned. I don't think I can get there at all. This top line, like we've liked to go to them in the past year as a decent value option, but they've kind of been struggling to produce offense here as of late. The goal scoring's kind of dried up for both Tyson Forster and Noah Cates here. Shot volume isn't quite what it once was. It just feels like there's much better spots to get to than playing the Flyers here tonight. I'll probably have absolutely zero of them, I think.
Let's get to game number 2. We've got the Boston Bruins and the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres are minus 112 road favorites in this one. The Bruins 2.9 implied total. The Sabres at 3. Let's start with the team trends here. Both teams pretty bad defensively, but the Sabres specifically are the worst defensive team on the slate tonight. 2.84 expected goals against per 60 is the worst mark on the slate. They also have the worst penalty kill, maybe the second worst penalty kill behind the Leafs on the slate tonight. So does set up decently well here for Boston if you can trust their offense, because they're not doing a whole heck of a lot either. 2.25 expected goals for per 60 is horrific. It's been really bad. The power play has not been much better either. So doesn't look like a game that really is going to generate a ton of fireworks here, but Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen hasn't been particularly sharp as of late. I do think Boston won with a pretty decent matchup, slightly above average tonight, and their underlying metrics continue to be pretty strong. So with that matchup being okay, with the underlying metrics being pretty strong, and then with the power play advantage being number 2 on the slate, the Sabres are one of the more undisciplined teams on the slate, actually tied for the most undisciplined. I think like Pastrnak, Lohrei, Geeky specifically feel really like solid plays this evening. You could probably leave Zach off now that he's not on that top power play unit any longer. But the fact that they grade out number 1 overall, I'm in. Zach at 53, like I said, is, I'd rather play Cirelli at 4,700. I think there's some better, cheaper center plays than Zaka. Like when he's like $4,500, it's like, okay, you can probably play him just because there's not that many cheap centers around that price tag. At 5,300, I'm kind of out. I don't mind mixing him in a little bit, but I'll be similar to the field here where he's kind of being left by the wayside a little bit in terms of, Geeky about 3% higher ownership, and then 12% higher ownership on Pastrnak makes a lot of sense to me. So I like Boston 1 a lot. I got to Lettieri and Middlestad in my daily faceoff head-to-head lineup. I don't necessarily love it. Obviously, Middlestad basically provides no floor whatsoever at 3,800. He's been a little bit better in Boston. Lettieri does shoot quite a bit, actually, and he's got a great shot, so he's got some kind of goal possibility at 3,300. I don't think he's the worst one-off play, but this is more of like just a low-owned dart throw here. Middlestad on that top power play, and like I said, they got a good power play matchup, so I don't necessarily completely hate getting down here. I would rather basically it was between Middlestad and Elias Lindholm, and they feel like very similar plays, yet Middlestad is 3,800 and Lindholm is 5,500, so it seems like kind of an easy determination there for me. So not obviously in love with Boston 2 as much as it seems like I might be based on my lineup there, but I think they're a reasonable kind of get different play tonight. What are you doing with the Bruins?
Yeah, I like getting the Bruins here tonight. Obviously, this top line looks like the one to target, as you mentioned. David Pastrnak, man, he's just been absolutely incredible as of late, averaging like 18 DraftKings points per game over his last 10 games, doubling up his $9,200 salary that's only been increasing for him. I think the way you mentioned it about building around, Pastrnak, Geeky, and Mason Lohrei is the way to go. I've got a little bit of time getting down to Casey Middlestad as well. 4 games with the Bruins so far. He's got a goal and 3 points. That's encouraging to see because it felt like the offense had kind of really dried up for him in Colorado. Like just wasn't a guy you could rely on consistently for offense. I'm not sure if you can consistently rely on him for offense now in this Boston Bruins lineup, but I'm willing to take a dart throw on him at $3,800 here tonight in my 20 max for sure. So love the idea of building around Boston 1, building around Mason Lohrei. Really don't have anything contrarian to you to say about these Bruins here. They look like a solid play, and I really don't mind getting down, as I mentioned, that Middlestat, Lettieri mini stack as well. Lettieri, 125 minutes over the Bruins' last 25 games, 7.7 shots on goal per hour of ice time, blocks a couple of shots as well. So could be a decent value play at $3,300 on the wing.
Yeah, I think like the reason that the Bruins feel somewhat in play tonight is because these other games do feel pretty low scoring too. So it's like making them a little bit more interesting than they probably should be. I mean, you look at it, The Leafs haven't really got anything going offensively. The Flames they have produced no offense whatsoever. Minnesota and LA could easily be a 2-1 hockey game. So that kind of leaves you with like Columbus, New Jersey as the only other high scoring game. Since the break, the Bruins are the fifth. Sorry, where are they? They are the fifth lowest scoring offense in the league since the break. Calgary's the second lowest scoring team, so just goes to show there. But the Sabres have given up the second most goals against, so they've really been struggling defensively. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, as I mentioned, really not playing his best hockey right now. So he has lost. He has not won a game. Sorry, he has just won two wins since February 25th. He's 2-5 with an .849 save percentage during that stretch. So he's really not played his best hockey as of late. The Sabres are banged up too. With Korpisalo getting the start, I think there's maybe reason to try to get to some Buffalo, although I don't think Korpisalo has been that bad. You take a look at the line stats here for the Sabres, pretty decent for the top six, all things considered. Like, we haven't seen a lot of Greenway, Tuch, and Thompson together this year. They spent a lot of time together last year, which is where most of this sample comes from. I don't mind the idea of a Tage Thompson and Alex Tuch mini stack. We've talked about Tuch playing fairly well as of late. Tage Thompson just can always kind of go off at any point. The second line grades out really well. I just don't know, if there's enough actual offensive upside here with Benson, McLeod, Zucker. I think they're fine. Benson's obviously played pretty well as of late. McLeod's okay. He might be on the top power play unit now with Yuri Kulich out. Zucker's been obviously, had a pretty productive season. Their matchup is the better of the two. The underlying metrics are pretty solid. The Sabres do feel like a kind of interesting, get different play. The top line is the fifth highest owned line, but the second line really not seeing here they are. Really not seeing that much ownership at all, about 6%. So, fairly cheap, kind of feel like a decent get different spot, but I just don't know how much Buffalo I'm really going to get to here.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. It feels a little tough to get to them. They don't have a necessarily high, implied total or anything like that. This game does feel like it has the possibility of being a lower scoring game too. It does have the lowest pace score of the night. I think there's some okay spots here with the Bruins, with the Sabres. Alex Tuch is a guy that I think is interesting here on this slate tonight, $6,700, 4 goals and 9 points in 13 games against the Bruins in his career. And Jason Zucker as well, another guy who's put up some points, 6 goals, 15 points in 27 games. Those are the two Sabres that really have provided any offense against the Bruins in the past from this lineup. Tage Thompson, 6 goals, 10 points in 25 games played. He struggled to kind of really produce against them. I have some interest in getting there. I kind of think the field is, maybe a little bit higher than I think I'll be on the Sabres here tonight. 10% for that top line, 6% for the second line. I don't mind a little Tage, Alex Tuch mini stack or Zach Benson, Jason Zucker mini stack, or McLeod Zucker, something like that. I just don't really envision myself getting there a whole lot here on the Sabres side of things. I think there's some other spots in this slate here that I'm kind of a little bit more interested in trying to build around. So I don't mind the idea of sprinkling them in here, but it does feel like a bit of a tougher matchup. The power play has really struggled here for the Sabres. They're going up against a great penalty kill with the Bruins. They're probably due for some offense to come their way here with 2.7 expected goals for per hour versus just 2.33 over their last 10. So I think, I'll get there a little bit tonight, a couple of little sprinkles, but it won't be anything too crazy for me.
Yeah, I think that's what worries me, obviously, is the power play here. The Bruins PK has been so good. And as I mentioned, Korpisalo hasn't been all that bad. Since the break, he's 1-1 with a .917 save percentage. And then dating back to basically the late January, his last 6 starts, .907 save percentage in his last 6. So he's been solid enough. And I just don't know if I can trust the Sabres missing some of their key offensive pieces. So I think there's some decent value, but they just don't have anything really going for them on the power play in this one. And I think it's going to be hard for them to kind of break this slate open. I think some of these spots could maybe be decent values and get there for you, but I just don't think the Sabres have that slate breaking upside here this evening. Game number 3, we've got the Blue Jackets and the Devils. So these two teams just met the other day. Or not the other day, but a week ago. And it was kind of that big game from Jesper Bratt. And Cody Glass, we talked about really liking them that night, and they made us look really, really smart. So we thank them for that. They won 5-3 that night, but then since then it's kind of been, a 7-3 loss to the Penguins a couple nights ago. They beat the Oilers. So this Devils team's kind of all over the place right now, and it's hard to really pick out exactly what's going to happen. But then it's even more concerning what's going on with the Columbus Blue Jackets, who's, I think we all kind of expected this super high-powered offense to come back down to earth eventually, and there was always the at least they'll always score on home ice. They've been shut out in back-to-back home games now, and there is a little bit of concern. Now, when we take a look at the line stats, I think there's even more concern tonight because they are shuffling things around and getting away from what's worked for the majority of the season. I don't blame them. Obviously, you've been shut out twice in a row. You got to do something. They're going back to Chinikov, Voronkov, Marchenko, who have not played together much this year, but the all-Russian line played together quite a bit last year, and their metrics were fine. They're slightly above average on tonight's slate, but they're nothing like crazy impressive. The second line, we really haven't seen this trio be together whatsoever. So this is a bit of a hodgepodge makeshift sample that I've put together here with a combination of these three players, and it doesn't grade out all that well. The matchups for them, it's a little bit better for the second line. So if you want to kind of ignore the hodgepodge of a sample, maybe Fantilli, Jenner, and Kent Johnson's the route to go. Kent Johnson's been really good. Fantilli's been awesome. Jenner's been solid since coming back. So I think that's kind of an interesting way to go. But let's just take a look here at the Blue Jacket side of things first, because the second line grades out 16th. The top line, where are they? Am I blind? I must be. Where are they? Help me. Okay, there they are. They're 18th. They're right below. 16,000 for Columbus 2, 14,700 for the top line. They're priced at a point where I think I'm willing to just take some swings regardless of the matchup, regardless of how things kind of look, regardless of how things have gone recently for them. Because these guys, Chinikov 3,700, Voronkov 5,100, Marchenko 5,900. They were all way more expensive earlier in the year, and I don't mind them tonight. 16,000 for the second line. I'll probably be about 5% of each of these lines, which is basically what the field is doing. I'll be overweight on the devil side of things, I think. So I don't really love Columbus all that much in this one. Power play matchup, the power play's really been awful as of late as well. They just don't have that same kind of energy it feels right now. So I'm going to tread lightly here with the Blue Jackets, even with Jake Allen getting the nod for the Devils. What are your thoughts here on Columbus?
Yeah, I've got interest in this Columbus side of things here. You mentioned the prices coming down for Columbus 1, $14,700 to full stack these guys. I'm interested in taking some swings and getting a little bit over the field here on the Blue Jacket side of things. It definitely feels a little bit risky, but they're still scoring 3.3 goals for per hour over their last 10 games. That's the highest of any team on the slate. And even their expected goal numbers is still the highest of any team on the slate here, in a game that's, projecting to be, a fairly decent pace score, projected to be the highest total of the night, according to the Vegas lines. I've got a lot of interest in getting over the field here on this game. For me, a lot of my interest is coming in on that second line with Boone Jenner, Adam Fantilli, and Kent Johnson. You have to get a little bit different because you got two centers on that line, obviously in Fantilli and Jenner. I don't mind doing that here on this slate tonight. Something that's really interesting, and I mentioned this in the DFS Discord the other day, Boone Jenner's most common defensive partner on the ice this season has been Zach Werenski. 55 minutes of Zach Werenski, Kent Johnson, and Boone Jenner together at 5-on-5. Obviously a bit of a small sample size here, but 81.5 shot attempts for per hour, 6.4 goals for per hour, 3.6 expected goals for per hour, 37.5 scoring chances per hour, and 18 high danger chances per hour. They've been really, really good here as of late when they've been together. And, Adam Fantilli, he was the one who was still really driving the bus offensively for that top line. Over his last 20 games, 400 minutes in all situations, 1.5 goals for per hour, 2.9 points per hour, 8.4 shots on goal per hour. Getting him down there with that second line now, I start to like them a little bit more. So I think for me, I have no issue getting a little over the field here, maybe up to 10% on Columbus 2. I'll probably meet the field on Columbus 1. Get one mini stack or one full stack into my 20 max tonight. But I think I'm going to be a little heavier on that second line. Obviously, Zach Werenski correlates on the power play with Adam Fantilli and Kent Johnson as well. it's not like their power play has been very good or anything like that lately. And they do have a pretty tough matchup here tonight going up against the Devils. But in the same breath, they could still score a goal out there. There's still the correlation there. That's what we like to look for. That's what we like to target. So, I got quite a bit of interest here in this second line tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you that if I was forced to play the Blue Jackets, I think I lean towards that second line as well. On the flip side, the New Jersey Devils, really good matchups for the top 9. The second line specifically has got a great matchup. Jesper Bratt coming off a massive week. I will, caution the viewers a little bit that the Cody Glass, Jesper Bratt thing has worked really well thus far. But the metrics don't suggest that they're really doing a great job of generating chances. It feels a little bit fortunate to kind of be where they're at so far. They've scored 7.36 goals for per 60, which is obviously incredible. But they're generating just 1.68 expected goals for per 60, 26 scoring chances for, and under 10 high danger chances. So again, small sample size, but I don't want to just get too carried away. I'm still going to go back to it because they're pretty cheap, but I want to keep it within reason because I think they have been a little bit fortunate thus far. And, when we take a look at the ownership here, New Jersey 2 sees about 10%, New Jersey 1 sees about 10%. So they're both seeing similar ownership tonight. Maybe a little bit higher on Glass and Bratt mini stacks with Howlett just 3%, but the top line seeing about 11% across the board. I don't mind getting back to that top line either. Obviously, the matchup's quite good for them. Their underlying metrics are kind of the complete opposite of the Jesper Bratt line, where they should probably be scoring more than they actually are. So, I think the field will be a little bit heavier on New Jersey 2, just recency bias, plus they're just a lot cheaper. So, I'll try to get overweight on New Jersey 1 because I feel like they're in a at least an equally good spot as New Jersey 2 with probably slightly less ownership. Their power play grades out number 1 on the night as well. So Luke Hughes back to being a great play. Tonight, his price tag is coming up a little bit, but the problem is he doesn't have much of a floor to speak of, but he's seemingly getting points every single night, so it doesn't really matter. You've got Heischer, you've got Bratt, you've got Meyer and Luke Hughes, so along with Dawson Mercer. So you have a little bit of an advantage for New Jersey 1 here in terms of the power play with Heischer and Meyer both on the top unit. But, if you want to go Glass, Bratt, Luke Hughes again, like I suggested doing against the Blue Jackets last week, by all means, it worked great last week. I have no issues going back to it. As you pointed out in your DFO head-to-head, Glass on the second power play unit with Simon Nemec correlates nicely there as well if that second unit gets some run. So I'm probably not getting down to New Jersey 3 with the way things are built right now. The underlying metrics are horrific for this bottom 6. So I'm happy to get over the field here on the Devils. I feel a lot better about the Devil side of things than I do the Blue Jackets. But if you're going to be heavier on the Blue Jackets, does that mean you're going to be a little lighter on the Devils here or just lighter in other areas?
I think probably just lighter in other areas. I have no issue really getting to the Devils here at all at the ownership that they're seeing. 10% for that top line. I have no issue getting there. They've been great as of late here, really picking up the slack with Jack Hughes being out of the lineup. Timo Meyer still shooting the puck a ton, 9.9 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games. Nico Heischer, 1.3 goals per hour. Not as much shots at 6.7 per hour, but still a fairly decent clip there. Stefan Nation, another one of these guys, sort of like Anthony Cirelli that I mentioned on the show last week, who's really due for some offense to come his way, especially in the goal column. 1.5 expected goals for per hour individually over his last 20 games versus just 0.4 actual goals for per hour. So I have no issue getting there on Nation and being a little over the field, 7.7% projected right now. I think I'm probably just going to be heavy on this game in general because I also like the idea of getting on this second line. Cody Glass at $3,700 feels like a nice price point for him still. Again, he's been productive so far in his time with the Devils. And Jesper Bratt just continuing to rack up points. 3.7 assists per hour over his last 20 games, 4.4 points, 7.5 shots on goal. Gives you a really solid floor with the amount of production that he's had as of late here. So, there seems to be quite a bit of ownership coming in on this third line as well here. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to get down there as like a cheap option tonight. The problem is that Andre Platt, Dawson Mercer, Thomas Tatar, they just really don't shoot the puck a whole lot at all. So I think I'm comfortable fading that third line and just loading up on these top two lines for the Devils here. Like I said, probably going to have a lot of ownership here in this game.
Yeah, and Cody Glass, not great shot volume thus far, but he probably could see some positive regression there. He has missed the net a lot more frequently than normal. Does have 13 shot attempts in 4 games with the Devils. Only 5 have hit the net, but a couple extra shots here and there would go a long way at his price tag. So yeah, I like getting back there. I love Jesper Bratt as a one-off tonight as well, or Jesper Bratt, Luke Hughes minis type like that. Like, even if Glass doesn't get there at 3,700, Brad seems like just one of the best plays on the slate. I absolutely love him again this evening. I don't know if I mentioned this, but they do have the number 1 power play advantage. I think I did. But in terms of the team trends here, they haven't been doing a ton at 5v5, but they do draw, again, a pretty good matchup here against a Blue Jackets team that has struggled a little bit defensively. And then the PK power play advantage is obviously great. Jet Greaves adds a bit of a wrinkle to it as well, right? Like, not a guy that we see a whole heck of a lot of at the NHL level, but I mean, when he's been called upon, he's been really, really good. 910 save percentage in 15 career games with the Blue Jackets, 915 save percentage in the AHL this season. So he's a more than capable goaltender, but I still, in comparison to some of these other spots tonight, I definitely have a lot more interest in the Devils. And we said it off the top, right? Like, when you take a look outside of the Lightning at 3.7, when you take a look at these other 4 games, there's only one that really feels like it's going to has the potential to be a bit of a high scoring barn burner. And that feels like it's Columbus and New Jersey. So getting kind of overexposed to this game, I think, is a smart route to go. Toronto and Calgary. Let's just go to team trends because it is gross on both sides. 2.04 expected goals for per 60 for the Toronto Maple Leafs over the last 10 at 5v5. 2.11 for the Flames. Yikes. As we mentioned, the Leafs penalty kill has been horrific as of late. The Flames don't do much on the power play, unfortunately, but yeah, this game, man, does not feel like we're going to see a whole lot of goals. The Toronto Maple Leafs start there. They're going to go back to their pre-trade deadline look. When we were talking, not we specifically, but when the media was like talking about when Scott Laughton was acquired, it's like, okay, perfect. Max Domi doesn't have to be the third line center anymore, and it lasted like 4 games. And Max Domi is a second line or a third line center again. Pontus Holmberg back in the top 6. Scott Laughton on the 4th line. So still early in his Maple Leafs career. I'm sure Laughton will kind of get his feet underneath him here shortly, but they do eat you alive in Toronto if things don't go well right away. So I know Twitter has been kind of a buzz about Scott Laughton's struggles thus far. Getting demoted to the 4th line certainly not going to help things this evening. But in terms of the matchups for the Leafs, the top line has the worst of the grades. Second line has the best. Without Mikkel Backlund, that second line, which the John Tavares line is going to see a little bit more of tonight, not quite as good defensively. The top line, Nazem Kadri, it's going to be Kadri's line versus Matthews' line for about 50% of the ice time tonight. The Kadri line will look a little bit different tonight. It's a line that we've seen them use quite a bit, on and off over the last couple of seasons. Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri, and Pospisil, they grade out really, really well defensively. Offensively, I think they take a little bit of a hit with Pospisil up there, but I think that, the way this team needs to beat you right now is winning 2-1 or 3-2 hockey games. They just don't have the offense going for them. But I mean, that is more than doable tonight, the way the Leafs have played as of late. So honestly, like, I don't have a tremendous amount of interest in this game as a whole. Like, I'll get to certain pieces. Like, I think, like, where's Calgary too? Coronado at 4,600, decent shot volume, top power play unit, decent one-off play. But like Coleman, Frost, Coronado is a full stack, probably not. Kadri's been red hot, so Kadri, Huberdeau minis are viable, I think, tonight. I don't care about Pospisil. He doesn't bring enough offense to the table, but Huberdeau and Kadri have been playing well enough. You probably want to try to get some exposure to that Flames power play unit, just given how bad the Leafs PK has been. So as I mentioned, you've got kind of that Frost Coronado duo. You've got that Kadri Huberdeau duo with Weegar. Like, those 2 mini stacks, and maybe including Weegar, will probably be where I go with Calgary. But I'm not going to be super high owned here. 10% on Kadri, 5% on Huberdeau, I think is fair. And then about 5% on the second line. I guess it's 7% on the second line. Feels fair. I'm not going to get crazy carried away. Let's start on the Flames side, since that's kind of where I've already gone here. What are your thoughts with the Flames? And, now that there's no Mikkel Backlund, what do? Do you still play Calgary too? You must be in a bind here.
Yeah, sure am. I mean, I haven't really played Calgary a whole lot lately. I mean, you look at these numbers for this Flames team, and it is just very bleak. They've been really bad here for a while. I don't know what it is exactly. Maybe it's just the fact that they know they'll be golfing a month from now, and they're all looking forward to those tee times. For me, it's pretty much Calgary one or bust from the Flames side of things. I've got interest in this Kadri Huberdeau mini stack with Mackenzie Weegar as well. Nazem Kadri's a really interesting guy. Ever since he left Toronto for the Colorado Avalanche, he's absolutely lit the Leafs up. 4 goals and 11 points in 9 games played. In the 5 games that he's done so as a member of the Calgary Flames, 2 goals and 3 assists for 5 points in 5 games. So I have no problem playing this Kadri Huberdeau mini stack. That's pretty much the only duo or any players that I'm really going to play from this forward group. I might mix in a little bit of Pospisil if the money works and I need a guy in that low 3K range. Obviously correlates on that top line there. That's really all the interest I have on this Calgary side of things. They're really struggling to score goals. Defensively, they're just kind of grasping and hoping that Dustin Wolf can continue to do the best job that he can. He's still struggled on the road this season. The home road splits for him are pretty stark, averaging 16.5 DraftKings points per game at home versus just 11.3 on the road. It feels like he's been a little bit better on the road as of late here, but man, if Calgary can't win this game 2-1, they're probably not going to win this game at all. So for me, that's pretty much where I'm going with this Calgary side of things. Kadri, Huberdeau, Weegar, or bust.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit more interest in that Frost Coronado, maybe Weegar mini stack than you do, but I'm not going to get too carried away because this game's got like 2-1 written all over it, so it's bound to be 6-4. Joseph Woll also has not been particularly sharp as of late. His last 3 games, especially, he's been awful. 11 goals and 74 shots for an .851 save percentage in his last 3 games, all of which are on the road. This is actually his first home start since January 29th, which is kind of wild. He's only been used on the road basically exclusively this year, or as of late, I should say. He's been better on home ice, 255 goals against average, 906 save percentage, but still nothing crazy to write home about. Okay. The Leafs are going to be the highest owned line on the slate. The top line with Nyes, Matthews, Marner. I don't think I'm going to get there. I'll get there. I don't think I'm going to get to that ownership. I just don't really see it. This offense has not been good. Matthews doesn't look 100%. Marner's been pretty quiet since 4 Nations. The second line, with Holmberg, we've talked about them many times. The underlying metrics are okay. They're not great. The matchups here are not great. The power play, has been really good, but the PK for the Flames has also been good. Dustin Wolf's been awesome. I will certainly get to Toronto 1, but probably 10%. I'm much more interested in other spots of this game. I played Dustin Wolf in my head-to-head for a reason. I think that this is not going to be a high-scoring game, and I think that Toronto is probably not the best play overall. I mean, highest owned line, but they're 5th best on the charts. The second line's 11th best. I just think there's better options here. So I'm going to probably come in under the field on Toronto. How about you?
Yeah, I think so too. My rule with the Toronto Maple Leafs, when I feel like they're over-owned, I'm going to fade them. When I feel like they're under-owned, I'm going to get a little bit over the field on them. 15% feels a little bit hefty here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I have no issue getting there, maybe 10% here on this top line. Maybe 15% Austin Matthews. If I'm playing some value lines and need a more expensive guy up the middle of the ice. I just have a hard time kind of seeing it as well here. Marner, as you mentioned, he's struggled a bit as of late, and Nyes too, just almost no shot volume for these guys. 6.2 shots on goal per hour for Matthew Nyes over his last 20. Mitch Marner, just 5.1. That's not really enough to cut it, kind of given these salaries these guys have. Mitch Marner has come down a little bit in terms of his salary. Same with Matthew Nyes here. Just not quite sure that I'm really comfortable getting, to 15 or even 20% of these guys here on this slate tonight. I don't mind the idea of, a little mini stack of John Tavares and William Nylander. Those guys have both been great against the Flames in their career. Tavares, 12 goals, 30 points, 32 games played. William Nylander, Calgary boy, 11 goals, 29 points in 23 games. So I think I'll get there, a little bit on this Toronto 2 line as well. Probably be 10% for that top line and 10% Tavares, Nylander mini stacks. And I'm pretty much going to be comfortable with that number, I think, for these guys.
we've said it a couple times already. Like, there's not a lot of high scoring games here. Like, the Leafs obviously have the potential to be a high scoring offense. Like, it just feels like they're so expensive. And like, the only guy that I really want to play is Matthews. Like, but he's still $9,000. He's been good. It's not great. 4 goals since the break. 4 goals in 11 games since the break. 12 points during that stretch. Yeah, just they don't seem right now. And I will not be surprised if this game is 3-2. Maybe even 2-1, maybe 3-1. How many scores can we throw out here before we get it right? Okay, let's move on to the final game of the night, Minnesota and LA. And not much to say here. This is going to be pretty boring hockey. Talked about the Flames being the one of the lowest scoring teams since the break. The Minnesota Wild have been the lowest scoring team since the break. They just cannot get anything going offensively. Matchups here, obviously brutal. The top line grades out with the best matchup as they go head-to-head with Janje Kopitar for 60% of their ice time. That's also the best matchup overall on the slate is LA 1. Minnesota 1, there was like game last week where they graded out number 1 on the charts and they still did nothing. So I don't know how much I want to get there. Darcy Kemper feels like such a good goalie play tonight. He's just not that expensive and he's been playing sensational as of late. $7,800 feels like a great play. Minnesota does a decent enough job getting pucks on net. Like, it still grades out as one of the higher event games of the night. So I think you'll see a reasonable enough shot volume. It's projected for kind of middle of the pack. I think that's fair. $7,800. I just have a lot of interest in Kemper, especially because he's just not really seeing all that much ownership either. So I think that softens me on Minnesota a little bit. I'll probably mix in about 5% of this top line because they still grade out third best. They're seeing about 10% ownership. The underlying metrics are still good. It's just a matter of they can actually put the puck in the net. But they've played a lot of, seen a lot of ice time as of late, 31%, which is why they continue to grade out well. Zuccarello's shot volumes come up a little bit as of late. Rossi's been fine. Matt Boldy's their best forward. So I'll mix them in, but like, it's not going to be a comfortable play whatsoever. I think that they're okay here tonight, but not a play that I'm really in love with. Obviously, with Kemper playing the way he is and the way this offense is going, like, let's just take a look at it. Like, they've scored 1.08 goals forward per 60 over the last 10 at 5v5. It's horrific. On the power play, it's a little bit better tonight. 11th best power play up against the 12th ranked PK. Like, so again, that's basically all Minnesota won on that top unit with like Marcus Johansson, Vinny Hinostroza. So Minnesota won basically, maybe a little Brock Faber. Outside of that, awful looking game for Minnesota.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I really don't have any interest here in getting to this this Minnesota Wild side of things whatsoever. I'm probably going to be fully fading them, to be totally honest with you. I've been playing some Matt Boldy as of late here, but he's just really been inconsistent. Looking at his last 10 games, in 5 of those games, he's had 2 or fewer shots on goal. There's been some games where he's just absolutely disappeared. Granted, there's a couple of, 5, 6, 8 shot games mixed in there, but really hard to consistently pin him down and pin this top line down right now. The numbers are just so bleak at 5-on-5 that I don't even think I can get there to sprinkle these guys in, even though they are the 3rd best line to target on the slate. Again, look what happened last week when they were the number 1 line. They were absolutely terrible. So
I played Matt Boldy in cash the other night. He had, I think, 0 points. Maybe 1.5. It's like, oh, his shot volume's good, but then sometimes it just disappears. And Zach, not to cut you off here, but their last 5 games, they've scored 1, 1, 2, 2, 1. What are you supposed to do with that?
Why would anybody play them right now? I do not get it. I just don't get it, man. So I'm comfortable fading this Minnesota Wild side of things entirely. The Kings side of things, it's just the same old shit in a different pile with the LA Kings. Like, which one of the 3 lines do you want to play? One of them's going to do well or okay. The other 2 are probably not. For me, the reason that I landed on that 3rd line in the DFO head-to-head, the matchup's really strong for them. The line stats are really strong for them here. And you got good shot volume from Warren Foegele and Trevor Moore. Warren Foegele, 10.3 shots on goal per hour of ice time. Trevor Moore, 8.1 shots on goal per hour. They grade out as the sixth best line to target on the slate, coming in at just $14,600 to full stack. I originally had the full stack with Philip Deneau in there, but he's kind of struggled offensively here as of late. And I just like the idea of getting some Cody Glass and Simon Nemechin to get a little exposure to that Devils Blue Jackets game. But to me, I think that's kind of the way that I'm going to land here, with most of my interest coming in on that third line. Interest in that second line as well. I mean, Quentin Byfield feels like he's been on a little bit of a heater here as of late himself. See if I can just pull up some of his numbers really quickly. Like he's really kind of putting up some points here as of late. 4, 5, 6, 7 game point streak with goals in each one of those games.
Yeah, 6 game goal streak right now.
Yeah, so he's really starting to heat up. So I think I'll get to that second line here as well, just because of that. But beyond that, I don't know, man. I just don't really like playing that top line a whole lot. Andrei Kuzmenko, way too expensive for me at $5,500. Anze Kopitar, same sort of a thing. Adrian Kempe, like I'd have some interest there, but he's also really struggled as of late. He's shooting 5% over his last 20 games versus 15% on the season. And it's not even like he's generating a lot of really good looks, just 0.9 individual expected goals per hour of ice time for him. So a lot of low danger shots from Kempe. I think I'll probably be keeping it to the second and third line, 5-10% of each, and fully fading that Minnesota side.
Yeah, I love LA too. Pretty much every night, their price tag makes them very easy to play at 6,100 for Fiala, 5,400 for Byfield. They've been red hot. I've been playing them pretty much every slate as of late. The third line, was pretty good value. I think the value is a little bit, zapped right now with Fogle up to 53 and more up to 49. I would just rather go to Fiala Byfield personally. I might mix in a little bit of like a Kuzmenko Kempe mini stack tonight, just because like Kuzmenko, we talked about his shot volume being pretty good his first few games. I think he has 1 shot on goal his last 3. So it's obviously not great, but at 1.8%, he feels like a super get different spot. Kempe, obviously a guy that can score a lot of goals. So with the 100% matchup score, like that's the only reason I'm making that play. If they go head to head with Minnesota 1 all night, who's struggled defensively, maybe they get lucky at 1% owned Kuzmenko. But that would only be in the deepest of tournaments. Like a single entry, I would much prefer going to LA too. But like this game as a whole, even like, yes, I think the King side of things is much better than the Wild side of things, but the King side of things feels fairly bleak too. We know this is a team that just came back from a road trip not that long ago in which they struggled mightily to produce any offense whatsoever. So now they start just a little 2-game trip here in Minnesota and Chicago, but they were in Chicago, St. Louis, and Dallas at the end of February, early March, and scored 4 goals in 3 games. They also just had to go to overtime 0-0 against the Predators on the weekend. So not an offense that's really humming right now either, but that second line is really the one that's got, doing all the damage, and that is the route that I will probably go. Philip Gustafsson, since the start of March, is 3-2-1 with a .923 save percentage as well. He's played quite well. I think he's an interesting one that could see a ton of shot volume tonight between the pipes. Let's get to the power play for this game. As I mentioned, 4th best for the Wild and 8th best for the Kings. Any final thoughts here on any of these games? This game, anything else before we move on to the defensemen and goalies?
No, let's talk about some of these blue liners.
Okay, let's do it. Let's get into the blue liners here, sort by value. Mason Lohrei, as we talked about, grades out really well. I love Victor Hedman tonight as well. $5,900 for Victor Hedman. I played him the other day. Absolutely love that price tag. These are 2 of my favorite defensemen tonight by a wide margin. And you could throw Luke Hughes in that bucket as well. $5,300 is a nice price tag. But Eric Chernak projects extremely well at $2,800. I think that's a fine play. McDonough, same pairing, $3,300. I think that's fine. We joked and laughed about it earlier, but sometimes when daily Faceoff has to use a 7th defenseman as a winger, DraftKings all of a sudden turns that guy into a winger. So you got Darren Radish at $3,900 on the wing tonight. Shout out to Daily Faceoff. Jake Middleton, $3,700. That price tag's come down a couple hundred. Always projects well. And against the Kings team that shoots the puck a lot, you've also got the highest event game of the night. It's a pretty good opportunity for Jake Middleton to get to the block bonus tonight. I think that he's a reasonable play. Outside of that, man, if you start getting too cheap here, like I know you like, who's it? Joel Hanley, $2,900. He's had some good shot block volume as of late. Some of those Leaf defensemen always have decent shot block. McCabe, Tanev, Tanev, former Flame, if you want to go that narrative. But I'm probably focusing on this like 4 or 5K range here on the defenseman. Mixing some Chernak, mixing some Middleton, mixing some McDonough as cheap options, maybe some Joel Edmondson. And that'll be the extent of it for me. How about you?
Yeah, I think you covered off the defenseman really well. I love some of these value plays that you're getting tonight. Hedman, Lowry, both look like awesome plays. Jake Middleton's grading out really well on a pretty regular basis. You mentioned a couple of those Calgary Flames defensemen. I think I can get there on a guy like Joel Hanley or Kevin Ball. They're playing quite a bit of minutes here, upwards of 20 minutes a night in all situations. Joel Hanley, 6.8 blocks per hour of ice time. Kevin Ball, 6.3 blocks per hour. I think they're fine plays if you need some cheap guys. Eric Cernak, though, I think is probably my preferred one at $2,800 because he's got a little bit of shot volume, a little bit of block volume. Going to be up there on that second pairing, projected to see 22 minutes of ice time tonight. But I think you covered off these blue liners pretty well here tonight, Brock.
Brock favorite projected for the most minutes tonight at $4,700. If you really want to play the Minnesota Wild, over 1,000 live viewers right now. If you're watching on YouTube, please smash that like button. Helps us grow the show. Helps us continue to bring this stuff to you 100% free. Let's get to the goalies. Andrei Vasilevsky, unsurprisingly, projects as the best goalie tonight. Highest implied win percentage. Only $8,200 too. He's not going to see a ton of shot volume, but he feels like kind of a free space tonight. Vasilevsky looks like a great play against the Flyers. It's a 2.2 implied goals against tonight is extremely low. Already, spoke about my love for Darcy Kemper. Really think that he's a tremendous play tonight. Joseph Woll, his struggles concern me a little bit. Also, not going to see enough shot volume to really probably make him worthwhile tonight. He is the second highest owned goalie on the slate too. So I think I just prefer Kemper in this spot. And I definitely prefer Vasilevsky. And they feel like pretty similar plays. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, he scares me the way he's been playing as of late, but $7,500 against an offense that's not been great for the Bruins, I think is, he's worth taking a stab on. I would probably play UPL at 75 before I play Korpisalo at 79. Just a little too expensive, even with a decent matchup. Gustafsson, projected for the most shot volume tonight at $7,600. I think that's fine if you're fading the Kings. I think that's completely reasonable. Greaves, $7,100. I mean, he's had some huge games. I think if you need to go dumpster diving, I would rather play Greaves than Fedotov, but I would probably play Wolf over Greaves. So Wolf is probably my favorite dumpster diving goalie tonight, but if you land on Greaves, I don't think it's, kind of outrageous.
Yeah, I think for me, I've really been trying to work hard on spreading my ownership out on goaltenders over these last couple of weeks. It's worked out pretty well for me. I think I'm going to have a hard time doing that here. I don't see a whole lot of goaltending plays that I really like on tonight's slate. So I think for me, I'm probably just going to be jamming in a lot of Andrei Vasilevsky and a lot of Darcy Kemper. And I think that's the way that I'm going to kind of attack this one. I'm okay playing Philip Gustafsson at $7,600. I think it's probably going to be a low scoring game. Gustafsson in his career, 2 wins in 7 games played against the LA Kings, but he has a 246 goals against average and a 920 save percentage. So really indicates that there have been a lot of low scoring games in that time that he started against the Kings. So I think that's kind of where I'm going to keep a lot of my ownership. I think I'm okay getting down to sprinkling in a little bit of Jet Greaves, sprinkling in a little bit of Dustin Wolf, but I don't know if I'm going to be getting to any of the other goalies on this slate tonight.
All right, let's get to our daily face-off hat-trick pick challenge. If you want to participate in today's hat-trick pick challenge, all you got to do, go to the comment section on the video on YouTube, not the live chat. When the show ends, go to the comment section, drop your hat-trick pick in the comment section. If your player scores a hat-trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to nationgear.ca. You can pick up some daily face-off swag. If somebody scores a hat-trick that nobody picks, we will just raffle it off to anybody that submitted a hat-trick pick. So I won our last head-to-head. That means I get to go first with today's hat-trick pick challenge. I'm going to go with Austin Matthews because I'm going to be under-owned, and at least if he scores a hat-trick, I won't be totally devastated. So I'll go with Austin Matthews to grab some low-hanging fruit here.
There you go. I like that. I'm going to go off the board with my pick today. I'm going to say Boone Jenner. Columbus 2, have a night. Hasn't scored a goal yet. He's getting a lot of quality looks, 1.1 individual expected goals per hour. I think he's due for some goals, and he scored a couple in the past against the Devils too. 11 goals in 35 games played. All
right. Quick shout out to our friends at rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get $20 off your first month of RotoGrinders Premium, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube. And it's not, exclusive to NHL. So if you like daily face-off for NHL and you want to try RotoGrinders for a different sport, they've got them all covered. You can get $20 off RotoGrinders Premium, whatever you choose. So check them out. rotogrinders.com. Also, if you want to join the DFO DFS Discord, link is in the description of the video as well. Community that's growing every day. We provide all the kind of late breaking news. We're just chatting DFS all day long. Lots of smart, fun people in there. So come join the movement at Discord. Let's get back to our DFO head-to-head. Talk about that. Like we said, revisit it. Talk about what we might have changed now that we've broken this slate down. And to be honest with you, not a whole heck of a lot for me. Like I would prefer to not have to play Boston too, but the price kind of dictates it here. So, I really like New Jersey. I really like Tampa. I'm softening a little bit on the Boston play as a whole. Like I might lean towards a little bit more LA 2 than Boston 1 tonight. But I think they're in a good enough spot. I'm interested in them quite a bit, and I just think the matchup is solid. So honestly, I think our early indications tonight were pretty spot on for me. I obviously don't love the Dustin Wolf play, but I think as a pay down option, he is fine.
Yeah, I still feel pretty good about my lineup too. I think the only thing that I would consider changing is maybe going from Warren Fogle and Trevor Moore to Boone Jenner and Kent Johnson. Boost the projection a little bit on my lineup as a whole. That's really the only swap that I could think of making here. I like the way that I kind of went with this one tonight.
That's going to do it for this edition of the DFO DFS Report. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Hope everyone has a safe kind of St. Patty's Monday. I'm sure a lot of you indulged over the weekend, but if you're having fun today, just make sure to be safe. Shout out to Zach for crushing a Guinness on the show. I'm going to go get some in me now. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back here tomorrow. We have I think a 14 game slate tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's just kidding. That's on Thursday. We have a 9 game slate tomorrow, 14 game slate on Thursday. Ooh, a nice 1 gamer on Friday. Woohoo. Okay, that's going to do it. See you guys back here same time, same place tomorrow. Actually, not same time. Be back here tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.